Okay, I'm back. So, let's see what I want to tell y'all. When I got my first job, my first receptionist, oh, stuttering. When I got my first receptionist job, as you can tell, my accent is not perfect. It used to be really thick. It was never very Cajun or Creole-ish because the part that my family was from was like North Louisiana, and our accent is different than Southern Louisiana people. Some people even go as far as to say that North Louisiana is part of Texas. But just know, all people from Louisiana, we don't have the Creole accent like you find mostly down south. So my cousin, she was working at different temp agencies, and what attracted me to them was that you get paid every week. Some of them you got paid every day. Like if you were into nursing or healthcare, I worked for Nurse Finders, and Nurse Finders, they'll pay you either the same day, the next day, or they'll deposit it in your account whenever you want it, basically. But I love the fact that whenever they call me, hey, can you work, I could get a check when I got off work, you know. So, but anyway, the temp agencies were the same way. You got paid every week for the most part. You might have to wait a week in the hole. Today's Temp was another good company, so look up some temping agencies. I didn't go through like Manpower or Snelling because I was already getting work with those other agencies, and they put me places like different customer service agencies. And I like the fact of working with temp agencies because if I didn't like the place, if the vibe wasn't right, I didn't have to go back. I just talked to my personnel person, whoever my account rep was, and tell them, hey, this is not going to work out, and I didn't have to go back. There was no commitment, but it was a good way to get my foot in the door. Now you do have to take a little bit of testing, normally a typing test. Typing test, they'll want to, you know, sometimes they'll want to hear your voice over the phone. I mean, you just got to put your best foot forward, you know, get real nasal, you know, but you know, that's how you had to do it back then. I'm sure you got to do it the same way. So I was a receptionist for the most part when I was younger. Then I got into, I worked for the healthcare industry. I worked for an insurance company, a health insurance company. Because back then, you could go to job fairs and literally get hired on the spot. That is another way to look for a job, is job fairs. They hire really fast at job fairs. When you go for a job fair, be prepared to get hired fast. Register with the Texas Workforce Commission because they big companies, say for instance, like Toyota or these major industries, you're not going to normally find some of their openings on their website. You're going to have to register with the Texas Workforce Commission, which you can go online and do it. And most of those high-paying positions, because we don't have unions in Texas, but those higher-paying positions, you're going to have to go through the Texas Workforce Commission, and they will help you get your foot in the door to work for those. Like back in the day, Frito-Lay, in order to get on them for Frito-Lay, you had to go through Texas Workforce Commission. To get on the General Motors, Texas Workforce Commission. Those kind of jobs where, you know, people back in the day, they would stay and retire in them. So you're not going to find those probably typically online. Register with the workforce agency, get you a worker, social worker, or you know, whoever they assign you to help you get your foot in the door with those kind of jobs. It's also a good resource because the Texas Workforce Commission, they have job fairs posted quite a bit. Just come prepared. Come looking your best. Come looking like, okay, if you go and apply for a job in an office, come dressed like you're going to work, like you want to work in an office. They need to envision you working for that company. Don't come in there casual thinking you're going to be a receptionist. If you want to be a receptionist, look like a receptionist. Put your finery on. If you want to be a sales rep, come look like a salesman. Whatever it is if you want to work for UPS, look like you done worked out and did some push-ups. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so the Texas Workforce Commission is another place. Also, it's another place if you want to get into a new field and you don't have the money for school. They have this program called WIA. Hopefully it's still available, but it stands for Workforce in Action, and they offer grants that will help put you through school, like barber college, welding, just different programs, and they'll let you know if funding is available. If funding is not available when you go at that time, just know it may be more funding at the first of the year. So stay in contact with them. I've almost everybody that I've told go to Texas Workforce Commission to help them find a job, they've gotten one. They're really, really good about that, and a lot of people don't even really use them, and I don't know why, but they work really fast, and they will help you polish your resume. They will tell you what you need, what you're lacking, what industry is better for you. Another thing too is check the Bureau of Labor Statistics.gov. They will always, you can search and find the top industries for like your zip code, for your state, for the US in general. That was how really I kind of not really how I chose respiratory, but how I determined if I was going to stay in respiratory, because I looked at the demographics and the occupational outlook and how much what's the average range that they pay. And that way, when I would go into like an interview and they would ask me what kind of money are you looking for, I knew the mid range that they were paying, and I knew what the top range that they paid for that state. So I always shot for the top. If they said they were paying $75,000 for it, I asked for $75,000. Now I might have only got $55,000 if I didn't have the experience, but I knew what was on the table. I knew what they had given other people. So it depending on what industry. No, I don't. For everybody, I suggest you do that. Go look and see. And I think they got like new websites like salary.gov and all that, but the original one and the most trusted source is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Okay, so we talked about Texas Workforce Commission. So I worked like my first jobs that I got excited about back in the day was working for PageNet. Yep, I was selling pagers, customer service. We had like I got into sales big time doing that, like customer service and sales, and we would get commissions. And then I went from there to working for like Sprint, made a ton of money in sales and commissions. I was like a top salesperson because I can talk so fast, and they used to say I could sell Eskimo ice. So sales was a really good industry for me then. Communications was, you know, they had the telecommunication corridor out there in Richardson. So if you're like a tech person, Richardson would be the area you would want to look for a job for. Also, the temp agency that you're choosing to work for, try to find a temp agency in that area. Like for instance, if you know you want to work in the telecom industry or the telecommunications industry, and most of those jobs are in Richardson, go and look for the temp agency in Richardson. Apply for that one. It doesn't make sense to apply for the temp agency in Oak Cliff, because they're not normally going to send you to that place to work, because they have account reps, and those account reps they go to these companies and say, you know, find out, do you need workers, and they get the workers and they send them to those locations. If you know you want to work in a warehouse, then don't apply for a temp agency. Don't apply with a temp agency in Plano, where they don't really, I mean, they have warehouses, but you need to apply for a temp agency, maybe say in Lancaster or DeSoto or Duncanville, or a place where they have like warehouses. That's what you need to kind of think about too when you're looking up a temp agency to work for. What industry you want to be in. If you want to do the medical field and you want to work with a medical agency, then look for one, say, off of Stemmons Freeway. I mentioned Nurse Finders. That was one of the big ones. They have several ones. They have okay, there's two types of agencies with healthcare. You have ones that give you contracts, like for instance, I'm going to work for you for 13 weeks. And then you have like local agencies that want to just staff you, like, you know, like they may not pay for your housing because you live in town, but you can make more money than what you would working for the hospital directly. Like I could work for an agency and make about $40 an hour compared to, say, working directly for the hospital making $30 an hour. I won't have any insurance benefits, but if I already have a full-time job and I just want to make money on the side, then, and I just want to be in and out, I don't want to really make a full-time commitment, because maybe I just want to work during the summer and I want the winter off because the roads are bad, you know, the weather is bad, there's black ice. You know, I have that leeway without actually leaving a bad record by quitting, because I'm not really quitting, I'm just kind of taking a hiatus. So, okay, so I worked for sales and service. I did that for a while. Worked for a health insurance company. Back then it was United Healthcare, Unicare, and we had stock options. That's the thing to look for with companies too. I made so much money off the stock had split one year, that when I decided to go to school, because I initially was in nursing school and then I went to respiratory school too, because I realized I just want to focus on the heart and lungs. I really don't want to deal with everything, and I don't want to deal with, you know, because you got to deal with, well, I still have to deal with doctors, still got to deal with family, but it's just a little bit different, and I'll make another video about why I chose respiratory. But anyway, so I worked for that company, and I made so much money in my stocks that when I sold them, I didn't even have to work for almost a year. That's how I was able to pay, you know, take care of myself. So I did that, went to school, of course, got my respiratory license, started working in respiratory. My first job was working at Children's Hospital, and Children's was a great hospital. I'm gonna say they still are, you know, because I left with a good experience, you know, with good experience. They were great teachers, great preceptors. Matter of fact, as soon as I got out of school, there was an across-the-board raise done. They did like a market study, and I got like a $5 or $6 increase immediately. I worked at Children's for a while, got my experience working with pediatrics, and seeing all different types of disorders, because we get so many children. And back then, they didn't have Children's Hospital. I think the only really major ones was Children's and Medical City of Dallas. And Medical City Dallas, they had did that. They had separated the conjoined twins from Egypt, so they were really booming back then. Everybody wanted to work there, to be there back then. So now they have the Children's up north, like in Plano, but they didn't have all of those branches like they did back then. So I got my experience doing that at Children's. And most people in healthcare always have 2 jobs. That's the norm with us. Worked at Children's, worked at Medical City Dallas. They hired me to work for with the children's side, because they have like a great pediatric cardiothoracic program. They do a lot of heart surgeries on kids there, and they had some great heart doctors there. And I was there before they built like this Toyota tower. I think it kind of slowed down for a while, because you will have lulls in it, but you'll always have a job. As long as people are having babies and smoking, you're gonna have a job. And as long as people are being born and dying, you're gonna have a job, as far as, you know, in the healthcare field. So I worked at Medical City Dallas. Then I worked now I worked at other hospitals, mostly through the agency. So I've worked at, I can pretty much say, almost every major hospital in Dallas I have worked at. But I worked at UT Southwestern. I worked there for about 5 years. They're a huge transplant facility, their teaching facility. I worked with adults there for a while. I worked in the ICUs, and I just really loved it. I can tell y'all so many details about which hospital to work for and why. If you want to make the most money, which hospital to work for. If you want to work for the hospital that has the best charting system, computer system, this is the one to go to. The one that has best management, the one that's going to work you like a Hebrew slave, the ones to avoid. I can tell y'all that too. But I would say those are just some of the things I can think of off the top of my head. My dad, he works for public utilities. He's like kind of like a foreman contractor type person. He works for the city of Dallas for like water. He is over that, and he's very handy. He can build a whole house and is always building stuff. But they have good benefits. With the water company, they'll hire you young too, and you can make really good money as a young person working for the water company. So yeah, those are some thoughts. Those are some industries that I think would be really good for you. Again, don't forget to go on Indeed.com. Almost every ad, instead of you going like to this website and that website and that website, if you go to Indeed.com, normally all of them are on Indeed.com. I've had really good, I use that for almost everything when I'm looking for a job. I'll go on Indeed.com. I do have a LinkedIn account. If you have I would suggest you get a LinkedIn account. If you do get a LinkedIn account, everybody's going to ask you if you have one, no matter what industry you're in. One thing I will say is clean up your social media before you start applying for a job. If you are very, like me, I have a lot of opinions. I'll say that I have a lot of opinions. Before I apply for a job, these HR companies, they are going, whatever email you give them when you apply, they are going to search that email to see what kind of person you are, because they're trying to get an idea of, people only want to hire people they think can be their friends or useful to them. If you are anti-Trump, but you're trying to apply for a company that's pro-Trump, that ain't gonna work. They ain't gonna hire you, because if they hit your Facebook, hit your Instagram, hit your Twitter, you see what I'm saying? So you need to either think about what email you are using when you apply for these jobs, or you need to definitely clean house and go way back, limit access to who can see your information, because some of these jobs, part of it is you have to give them your logins and you have to give them your passwords. I've had friends that have told me with different that need different military clearances that was required for their job. If you want to work for some of these aerospace engineering companies, some of these Department of Defense companies, be prepared to release some of that information. So you might want to clean house. Be mindful of what you're saying when you're trying to apply for these jobs. Switch up your email address. All this big booty Judy at yahoo.com. You might not want to put that on the, you know, I know y'all know some of that stuff, but I'm just a refresher. It's just stuff I would tell my kids. You know, I'm always telling my son, he's 18, and I'm like, you know, don't, you know, he'll be with his friends, he'll be hanging out, and my son ain't in no gang. He don't even try to play hard. He's just who he is. But you know, kids have different slang or different poses, and you know, and my daddy be like, boy, why you posing like you in the jailhouse? Because my daddy was in Angola for 20 some years. So he would be, you know, so I tell my son, don't post that kind of stuff, because there's a such thing as digital footprints. Even when you think you've deleted something, people can still find it, you know. Unless you got that kind of Beyonce money, Kevin Hart money, where you can kind of wipe some of them things clean. And you saw he got caught up, Kevin Hart, on some stuff he said, LGBT stuff. You don't know who's hiring you. You might want to clean up your stuff before you start applying for a job, because you don't know who you're going to interact with. And it's just the right thing to do, you know, to be professional. At the end of the day, it's only going to serve you. Use your manners. You know, in the South, a lot of people say yes ma'am, no sir, no ma'am. You know, I'm not saying you got to say it, but I'm just saying the people that you're interviewing with might take it as a sign of disrespect if they're asking you something and they're older than you, and you just saying yeah, no, or I've seen people who, because I've sat in on peer interviews, a lot of them, and they're asking you something, or you know, you're communicating, and you're rushing them through. So you're like, yeah. Southern people hate that. Don't rush them through something like you don't have time to hear what they're trying to say or what they're trying to ask you. So like, for example, can you tell? Let me see. When did I? It's been quite a few. Maybe it'll come to me later, but they hate when you're like they're talking to you and you're just rushing them through something. Just sit there and bear with it. I know it's horrible to do it sometimes. Check out greensheet.com. I will always recommend them as a resource as far as like little job. Like if you come, this is what I tell people. There is no reason why you should be in Dallas and unemployed if you don't want to work. No reason. You got people who come to Dallas with no identification, nothing. Out of their immigration status is out of order, and they still find a job. You can go in Green Sheet. You can find all kind of jobs working in a warehouse, moving companies, all kinds of stuff. So it doesn't matter if you don't have a squeaky clean record. It doesn't matter if you on your second felony. There are jobs to be found in Dallas. Somebody is going to always want to hire you. There's a lot of places you could go to find jobs. Green Sheet is a good one to find these quick, fast, in a hurry jobs. Telemarketing is another one. I hated telemarketing. I did that for probably about a good 2 months. I was selling ATM machines back when that was the new thing, because you know, we ain't always had ATM machines. And I used to sell ATM machines, and I swear I used to have anxiety because it was in sales, but the sales leader, he was so pushy. He would make your nerves bad. He would make you have gray hairs. I remember I had I told him I was putting in a 2-week notice, because you know, I'm being professional. I'm putting in a 2-week notice, but all jobs are not created equal. And he said, well, you can leave now. But I had calculated my budget. I was gonna get 2 more checks in, you know, and then I had another job lined up. He said, oh, you can leave now. I don't need you staying here and bringing down the morale. I'm not a morale. I wasn't gonna even say that. I'm just letting you know the 2 weeks notice. But it's one of them kind of jobs. Texas is an at-will state. They can fire you at any time. Trust and believe they can, and they will do it. So just know that. All right, I'm not gonna get too long-winded. I think this video is long enough. It says 18 minutes, so I don't even know if I might have to cut this video, so y'all might not even get all of this info. But if you got any questions, you got another topic for me, anything you want me to discuss, please let me know, and I'll make another video about it just for you. Talk to you guys later. Hope y'all have a great evening. All right, bye.